Here's a quick guide on how to get the 5 legendary weapons in the Elden Ring DLC. I like to keep my videos quick and to the point, so if you appreciate me not wasting your time, I would appreciate a like and a sub in return, but let's get to the first weapon. The first and definitely easiest of these weapons for you to get is going to be the ancient meteoric or greatsword. This is also a very strong weapon that scales with physical and magic damage, and I've been using this through my whole playthrough since it has very strong attacks and also a very strong Ash of War. White light charge sends you forward, and using the Ash of War button again bursts into lightning. This causes a ridiculously high amount of damage, so if you want this, you need to come to the Ruined Forge of Starfall Pass cave, and once in here, progress through like normal until you come to this ledge above all the other ledges. Once you're up here, drop down and then go to the other side and pull the lever. This lever is going to lower the gate, and once it's lowered, go to the other side and pull the lever again. This is going to raise the gate up, and when it's going up, you need to jump on top of the gate. Once you've done that, just come to the room and pull your new weapon out of the forge. The next weapon you'll be able to get is the Sword of Light and Dark. This is a very unique sword that you honestly might have right now, but you just don't have its full version. I say that because I found this weapon my playthrough and I thought it was just terrible, so I put it away and never pulled it back out. But that's because there's 3 different versions of this. And I know that sounds confusing, but just watch and you'll see. First, come to the castle front Grace, and from here, go to the Fog Rift Catacombs. Progress through until you find this big open room with the 3 sets of spikes falling from the ceiling. Come to the stage and then jump on top of the spikes and run across them into the back right. Once you do, you can find the first iteration of this weapon, which is the Stone Sheathed Sword. You should probably just check your inventory to see if you have it, but now that you have that, it's time to get the Sword of Dark, which from the main gate plaza, come out and to the right, go up the stairs and take another right when you're at the top, and then go down the ladder. Once you're down here, hit the fake wall and proceed until you find the stone coffin. Take it down, and now you should be at the castle watering hole, Grace. Come to the back side of the ruined castlettes here and jump up just like I do, and up here you can find the Sword of Dark. There's another way you can get in by jumping on top and then throwing a fire jar into a fire giant, but honestly this is just way easier to do if you're just looking to save some time. But anyways, now that you have that, it's time to get the Sword of Light, and I will let you know now, getting the Sword of Light will remove the Sword of Dark, but in my opinion the Sword of Light is better, and I'll explain later. But next, for the Sword of Light, you have to come all the way to the Ancient Ruins West, Grace, and to keep this easy, just follow the path that I take on screen. Alright, now that you have that, I'll explain a little bit about these swords. Both of these swords scale with faith, and they basically share literally the same stats. Sometimes when you're hitting enemies, you won't see that, but for some reason on the wiki, it just says they have the same stats all around, so I don't know. The only change that's very noticeable is the Ash of War on both these. So you should really base your decision off of its Ash of War. But I will say, if you're looking for my opinion, like I said earlier, use the Sword of Light. And that's because the Sword of Dark's Ash of War is very hard to honestly get off. You'll just be standing in place using it, waiting for it to hit the enemy. And obviously using this on bosses isn't ideal. And the Sword of Light's Ash of War is way more likely to hit. But on top of that, you get a 20% damage buff to holy damage. So I would just definitely recommend using the Sword of Light here instead. The next weapon you should find is the Velvet Sword of St Trina. And I know when you pick this up, it doesn't say it's a legendary, but I looked up to check how many legendary weapons there are in the DLC, and this came up 3 different times on 3 different websites. So fuck it, I'm just adding it. Obviously though, the next weapon is going to be the Velvet Sword of St Trina, and this weapon against certain enemies and bosses is actually insanely good. Since it has a new Ash of War called Eternal Sleep, which makes bosses and enemies obviously sleep, but now while they're asleep, you can continuously hit them. Some bosses will stagger for a few seconds, but obviously like the apostles, they'll literally just fall asleep and you can just whack them to death. It's actually insane. So to find this, you need to make your way all the way to the Cerulean coast. You can get here from taking the path that leads down at the castle front Grace. Just follow the caves and the waterfall path all the way until you get here. It's actually pretty straightforward. And once you're here, head down into the fissure. Once you're down here again, it's pretty straightforward. Just get to the fissure cross Grace, and from here jump into the big boat thing. I don't know what this is. and come into the left corner where you see me, and you're just gonna slide down and land on this lip below. It feels weird and feels like you might fall off, but honestly, I've never fallen off, and I've done this like 6 times. It's pretty safe. We're from here, run into the cave and then get sucked up, and then just grab the sword, and now you have it. And I know it's not legendary, but it says it online, okay? It's whatever. This thing feels more legendary than some of the other weapons anyways. For the final legendary weapon you can get in this DLC, you have to come to the first Rise Grace and follow the main path here until you find this guy who calls in the storm. Once you're here, you know you're in the right place. Just run up the stairs and then jump off onto the right side. And once you're down here, you're literally just making your way jumping all the way down for a long time. I'll keep my path on screen so you can see how I do it, but trust me, don't get overwhelmed. It's really easy to do. Once you're at the bottom, you've taken all the elevators down, you open the door, you can now get the Euporia. This is a very interesting twin blade, and its Ash of War stacks up damage based on the amount of consecutive hits you've pulled out, but for whatever reason, this doesn't stack with the Wing Sword Insignia Talisman, which literally does the same thing. I don't know what's up with that, but I personally think this is one of the coolest weapons in the game right now. It does feel like it could use a little bit of a buff, but I mean, I'm sure there's builds that you can stack up crazy damage with this. But anyways, that's gonna do it for all 4 or 5, I don't know, legendary weapons in the DLC. If you stayed all the way to this point, comment 54 so I know to thank you. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Prez, and I'm out, bruh. Peace.